Yallah, so we're about to leave the area because the Israeli soldiers came back.
They confiscated our camera, they confiscated our phones.
This is what Israel doesn't want us to show you in the occupied West Bank. These are Israeli settlers attacking Palestinian homes. Under the cover of Israel's war on Gaza, Israeli settlers have carried out hundreds of attacks at record high levels.
أنا زام أخوي وابن أخوي قبل يومين وزام قبلهم 7 شهداء.
Residents here say Israel has a master plan to erase all Palestinians.
يعني الإصابات اللي بتصير في جنين، في المواجهات في طول كرم، في نابلس، مش بعاد نهائي عن اللي بتصير في غزة.
Settler violence is a part of daily life under occupation. And so is the brutality of the Israeli army who enforces it.
We were just stopped for the second time today. They told us we weren't allowed to film in this area.
I'm Zaina Al-Tahan, and this is the story of Israeli settlers terrorizing Palestinians and the struggles we faced as Palestinian journalists trying to report on what's happening.
We're about to head back to Ramallah, and the Israeli army suddenly decided to close the roads. We're at the Al-Manara Square right now in the centermost point of Ramallah city. So we're about to head out on our journey. Let's go. We're going to the villages south of Nablus, which have been living through the deadliest settler attacks for the past few years.
Israel's military occupied the West Bank during the 1967 war. And ever since, settlers have tried to claim the land as theirs and forcibly displace Palestinian residents. The government's helped by building hundreds of illegal settlements and giving Israelis incentives to move there.
So this is the way that we would normally go. Since October 7th, the Israeli army has closed off one of the main entrances and exits out of Ramallah.
Before our trip to Qusra even began, we were stopped by the Israeli army.
They just took our phones, they deleted all our footage and said that they will get back to us about whether or not they'll be able to let us go.
Palestinians are stopped and harassed by soldiers at hundreds of checkpoints and roadblocks on a daily basis. But since October 7th, Israel shut down virtually all movement for Palestinians between different cities.
We've been here at the DCO checkpoint north of Ramallah in the central occupied West Bank for about half an hour. Still, they have us waiting on the side and we don't know what's going to happen.
They detained us for about an hour and a half, and we were told that we could leave. They gave us everything back, so now we have to take a long detour to get to where we're going, which is Qusra, what is usually a 10 or 15-minute drive. Today takes an hour and a half to 2 hours. Many people have been saying this is a form of collective punishment. The closures not only cut off cities from villages, but villages from one another. Families are unable to see each other. People who need to get to hospitals are forced to obey based on the whims of the Israeli army soldiers.
But remember, this is what life was like before October 7th. A 700-kilometer separation wall cuts through the occupied West Bank and is a stark representation of the systematic oppression that Palestinians face.
Israel started building the wall in 2002. The wall helps Israel take more Palestinian land. So many people actually call it the annexation wall.
And here you can see an Israeli settler. And behind him, in front of the settlement, we see this sign everywhere which says, "The people of Israel are alive and will succeed."
The very existence of these settlements is illegal under international law, and yet Israel continues to build them.
So we're still on the way to Qusra, but we just made a short stop. We're standing right in front of the village of Sinjil. The Israeli army closed off the village with this sand. Sinjil is one of the most badly affected villages by settler attacks.
Just across from Sinjil is the village of Turmusaiya, where in June 2023, a mob of settlers torched dozens of homes, killed a Palestinian man, and injured many others. Again, we were interrupted by another unexpected visit from the army. This time, the army wanted us to leave the area immediately.
We're about to leave the area because the Israeli soldiers came back and they told us we can't film here. They took photos of our IDs and we're just about to leave the area because they're getting pissed.
Palestinians and settlers live sometimes just a few meters away from one another, and yet their lives are completely different. Palestinians live under military rule. Some of their most basic rights are systematically violated and they can be held indefinitely without trial or charge. Their complaints of settler violence are rarely taken seriously or even investigated. And that's why we're taking you to the village of Qusra, where Palestinians are surrounded by some of the most violent settlers. Just days into Israel's war on Gaza, settlers here killed 6 Palestinians in 24 hours. 63-year-old Ibrahim Wadi and his 25-year-old son Ahmad were gunned down during a funeral service for the other victims.
They got stopped here on the main road by settlers who intercepted the funeral procession, and both Ibrahim and Ahmad were shot dead here.
One cell phone video shows the moments when Ahmad was killed.
يي طخوه يي والله انت كم منهم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يعني أخوي إبراهيم الله يرحمه كان في نشاطه الوطني المميز، حبه للبلد، حبه للناس، حبه انتمائه للعائلة، مقاومته ضد الاحتلال، عدم خوفنا من الاحتلال، علمنا أن نكون أقوياء لأنه هذا محتل. هو كان المنارة بالنسبة لنا، كنا نشوف فيه القوة.
Ibrahim was a father to 11 children, but he shared a special relationship with his son, Ahmad, who is now buried alongside him.
كانوا دائما مع بعض وتوفوا استشهدوا مع بعض، بس ولا مرة تخيلنا أنه نكبر اثنين في يوم واحد.
Settlers use violence and harassment to forcibly remove Palestinians from their land.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
Like Jacob, the settler from Brooklyn, any Jewish person from anywhere in the world can move here, become a citizen, and live in one of these Jewish-only settlements. Palestinians like Neda, who've lived here for generations, are being pushed out of their homes.
قديش خلت احنا بدي اعيش؟ انا بدي اعيش بكره سنتين وسنه، هي من يوم خلقت ونعاني، من يوم خلقت واحنا واحد من اليهود محتلين واحنا نعاني.
Neda was born in 1949, just 1 year after the Nakba. That's when 750,000 Palestinians were violently forced from their homes to create the state of Israel.
بقول لهم قبل ما اموت نستقر مثلا سنه واحده نستقر ونشوف اولادتنا ونشوف اولادتنا واحنا في استقرار وهاديين وما فيش خوف.
In 2013, settlers attacked Neda's home and held her at gunpoint. Ever since, she's been terrified to go anywhere.
بخاف اطلع منهم. الجيش والمستوطنين بيقولوا لنا هاي مش ارضكم، احنا بدنا الامان يعرضنا بس ما يجوش اباب الدار.
Neda's husband showed us how their windows are boarded up with metal shutters.
هذول حراسات، شايف يعني على اساس انه ما يقدرش يرمي علينا كنبله حارقه زي ما سووا في دومي. انا فلاح يعني انا مواليد 52، شايف قضيت حياتي وانا فلاح، واصرف مع الغنم وازرع وابحث. تعال تروحش، خليك واقف. والله دائما بيهددونا، والله ما في امن. يعني الولد الصغير اللي عمره 10 سنين زام مسدس.
It seems like every person in this village has been touched by some kind of violence.
كان ابني واقف هنا، هو واقف في الشارع الجندي، ضربه صاوبه وضربتها.
Neda's son survived, but many don't. Abdul Azim, still mourning the loss of his family, took us on a tour of the village. It felt more like a memorial service for the dead than a tribute to the living.
يعني على شمالنا في بيت شهيد اللي في 11 أكتوبر، على يميننا في أولاد سامر أبو عزمي كانوا جرحى في 2014 اللي طلعنا عنهم قبل فترة. في أسيرين موجودين تم أسرهم قبل تقريبا شهرين. فكل بيت هنا في قصة مع الاحتلال ومع مستوطني في هذه المنطقة.
These days, armed Israelis have been raiding villages daily, assaulting residents and their property. And the military was either accompanying or actively supporting the attackers in almost half of these incidents.
تعتبر إنه اللي قاعد بيصير في الضفة منفصل عن اللي بيصير في غزة؟
في مجازر بتصير في الضفة الغربية، برضو العالم ما في أنظاره متجهة للضفة الغربية، كل الأنظار حاليا متجهة للمجازر اللي بتصير حق إخواننا وأهلنا في غزة، ولكن إحنا مكملين لبعض، لن تنفصل يوما من الأيام غزة عن الضفة، إحنا في النهاية بين قوسين إحنا فلسطين.
As we wrapped up filming, we experienced one last reminder that Palestinians in the occupied West Bank face constant restrictions on movement.
We're about to leave Qusra to head back to Ramallah, and the Israeli army suddenly decided to close the roads, and it's been closed with these rocks and soil. The Israeli army standing over there, not letting anyone go in or out.
بينما هاي السيارات اليهود بتسلك طريقها بحيوية وبكل سهولة، يعني هو يعيش وإحنا نموت، هو يتعالج أولاده وإحنا ما يتعالج أولادنا.
وكثير بيسكروا صح؟
زي ما بده. هذا زي ما بده، هو يعني كيف ما بده بيعمل. على المزاج بالضبط. يلا مساء خذي هاي كمان لإلك.
Life under the world's longest-running military occupation is full of violence and loss. But what keeps Palestinians going is the lasting memories of their ancestors and loved ones.
شوف صورته سواء في المقبرة أو في البيت أو في الشارع أو في أي مكان عام، وبتيجي عيني في عينه، بشعر إنه لازم أستقيم، لأنه هو كان زي صمام أمان، ضابط إلنا في حياتنا في مسيرتنا الوطنية والتعليمية المقدسة.
Hey everyone, we just made it back to Ramallah. We had to take a detour through a few other villages to get out of Qusra. We were harassed a number of times by the Israeli army today, just trying to tell this story, by the same army that is killing our people and our colleagues in Gaza. In the occupied West Bank, the rate of deadly settler attacks is unprecedented, and it's important to know that the coming period is going to be even more dangerous. Residents here are pleading with the public to keep talking about the horrific atrocities being committed in Gaza, but do not miss the larger picture of decades of ethnic cleansing and military occupation.